let's go into the news. All right, first story. First story we're going to talk about is YouTube Gaming. YouTube Gaming has made its debut on the PlayStation 4 as of update 3.0, which came out yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw that. That dropped Tuesday, I think. Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't remember when PlayStation drops their updates. But now, YouTube Gaming has entered the arena of the console. So now Twitch has a little bit more competition on the consoles. Now, if you have an Xbox One or a PlayStation, can't speak for the Wii U, you know that Twitch, Ustream were the main two that were there. Gotta say, I know this is about YouTube and Twitch and everything. Where does Ustream fit in anything anymore? Anybody have a clue? Because I used to be all over Ustream. That was my main site. And it seems like the site took a turn towards commercial, like Livestream did. But it's not, but it is. But they still have a Sony relationship somehow. And they're still kind of popular in Asia. But they're not, but they are. So I'm a little bit confused about Ustream. And Ustream is still there. Ustream is still there, so they're doing something right. They are definitely doing something right. I just realized one of my headsets was off, and I look like a bearded Borg right now. But YouTube Gaming is there, and I guess we may see a rise in count in live streamers on YouTube, because those of us who are used to the Twitch numbers now, YouTube is kind of looking like the JTV of old, where the top people are like 500 users and like 600 users. So maybe we'll get an influx of users over there. We'll see. But one thing I've learned is to never count Google out. Never, ever. Never, ever count Google out. So that's that story. I just wanted to talk about that one real quick. The next story I want to talk about, it's kind of lengthy. But I'm going to do my best to keep this focus as humanly possible. It has to do with the Star Citizen mess. It's the only way to describe it. Over on Escapist magazine, there is a massive 3-page. That's the first page. I mean, that was the third page. That's page 1. That's page 2. And this is page 3 of all of the mess that's going on with Star Citizen. The mess. And this story has been like updated from like a previous story. It's like a follow-up to it. They've gotten quotes from former employees which have identified themselves, so they're not like anonymous anymore. They're referring to them by numbers, of course, not going to out them. And they've got Chris Robert responses throughout the entire article. Yeah, let me link this to you guys, because it's going to take you 3 days to read it. I tried to read it all, and I was just like, you what? You seriously what? But here it goes. The theme, I'm trying to summarize it as best I can. There's just so many bombs dropped in here. The theme of the complainers or the former employees is that, number one, Chris Roberts is arrogant. I know you guys have probably heard this on other sites. They've also accused him of trying to make a movie. Yeah, that's in here. Through the game, trying to make a movie through the game. And I've learned something. And this is going to be the first thing I'm going to talk about. I didn't know that the project wasn't done being funded. All of my criticism to Star Citizen has been centered around they have already received their funding. But this is a quote from Chris Roberts that I got that from. And it's from the section, let's see if I can find it. I think it's on page 1 or 2. Right, here it is. So it kind of starts here. Uh, it says that following the successful completion of their initial Kickstarter campaign, crowdfunding continued throughout other methods. In August 2014, the campaign reached 49 million, with Roberts stating that they still needed additional funds in order to sustain this level of development. They needed that to sustain development. The game has to date raised nearly 90 million through crowdfunding. Previously, Cloud Imperial Games claimed that the high cost of the stretch goals was intended to allow them to meet a November 2014 release date, which is gone, while still adding the additional content. So this is from the FAQ. The purpose of the higher stretch goals, and I'm spending a lot of time on this because I didn't know this. The purpose of the higher stretch goals is to ensure that the game as described is finished in a 2-year time period. That's from the FAQ. Last updated October 2012. We intend to build a game that Chris Roberts described at GDC Online regardless. But without additional funding, we're going to have to do it a piece at a time, starting with Squadron 42, rather than a single large production. That I did know. I did know that. With more funding, we can include more ships, systems, unique locations, blah, 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 blah. So here's the thing. Apparently, the only thing that has been funded is Squadron 42. And I was just like, what? So this is Robert's response. You will notice that this is saying that we will only deliver Squadron 42, not the bigger game, without additional funding. This is today. If you refer to the stretch goals, you will notice that the base goal was enhanced community content delivered, alpha dogfighting model delivered, and Squadron 42 in progress. That was the base game as described. So that's what's being funded. Now, this is what I backed. The full persistent universe and all the extra features like FPS boarding, multiple star visits to visit, multiple star systems to visit, extra ships and so on are all stretch goals. As it is true with most projects, when the scope changes, so do the timelines. You can't build a castle, blah, 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 blah. I did not know this. I didn't know this. Dudes, so I've been dropping the ball because I know how well they communicate. I know how well SIG communicates to the viewers and the users. If this has been the case the entire time, I completely missed that. Because here I am thinking that the entire game has been funded, but this money that they're soliciting is for extra stuff. Nah. This money that they're continuing to solicit is such that these additional stretch goals are met. They have not been met. At $90 million, the stretch goals, let me let that sink in a little bit. At $90 million, the stretch goals have not been met. I read that, and the rest of the article I really didn't care about. I was just like, are you serious? And the thing is, I guarantee that this was communicated by them. That's why I'm kicking myself, going, how in the world did I miss that tidbit of knowledge? So I'm going to be following them a little bit closer now, knowing that tidbit of information. So, man, I really dropped the ball on that. But anyway, they've been accused in this article. Of some really bad stuff, much of which Chris Roberts has refuted and said is flat out wrong, flat out a lie, flat out didn't happen. Accusations of his wife using racism, using like hate speech, and using terrible language. And even, this is the one that got me. I'm just like, are you serious? Where is it? It's right in this section. Her name is, here it is. It was also claimed that Sandy Gardner, which is his wife, used race as a determining factor in selecting employees. I'm like, oh, here we go. Allegedly once saying, we aren't hiring her. We aren't hiring a black girl. What? I mean, I got you got to look at it from multiple perspectives. Number one, why would anyone make that specific thing up? It's you got to be real bitter to say that we're just not going to hire the black girl. You gotta be really vindictive to make that up. And number two, if it's true, how could you still work for someone who says that? That kind of plays into something else that they were talking about in this article. Here it is. This is a section. The person said that it affected their health, their home life, and they needed to get out. They didn't have a job lined up. They had to get out of an incredibly toxic atmosphere. So, I mean, and you look on the flip side, Chris Roberts directly refused it. It says that not true. All personnel and HR matters are obviously complete private, so we can't comment to that as a matter of principle. As always, there's two sides of each story. And then he says, I think, I mean, I do remember him reading that. He just flat out, just denied that this happened. That I think he said, "Why are you attacking my wife?" Something like that. But apparently she uses bad words, ridiculously crass words, I should say. I use the word crass because people don't know what bad words mean anymore. And she was incredibly hostile to other female employees, according to this person. She was very jealous, according to her. Now, again, two sides, who you believe. Follow the money. So, again, going on that same vein that Star Citizen still isn't finished being funded, let that keep sinking in. You're going to go to bed at night. I can't believe Star Citizen isn't done being funded. Apparently, they dropped a lot of money with these people called Turbulent. I haven't read this completely, but that's the other part. You guys can read over that, but I'm not going to go over that too much. And then they're talking about how he's trying to make a movie. He failed in Hollywood. He's trying to redeem it here. I don't know how true that is as well. This is the other part. The company is bleeding money and employees. So apparently everybody's heard about the layoffs or the reorg. And the thing that got me is that some people was like, it wasn't layoffs. It was a reorg. I'm like, how long have you been employed in corporate culture? I mean, how long have you been employed? That is a layoff. That's what a layoff is. It's a reorg. Departments shift, they reorg, they become more efficient, and people who are left to the wayside are laid off. That is a reorg. Some people call it work reduction. Some people call it all kinds of stuff. But essentially, it is a reorg. That's what it is. So don't try to sugarcoat it. I mean, it's okay to reorg. It's okay to lay off people. But when you combine that with the most funded game of all time, you get an extra level of scrutiny, look down on you. And they're talking about all the different packages, the $15,000 package, the 20, all these $900 ships. You guys know about that stuff already. I'm not going to go over that again. But two sides of the story. Some people are saying that they're spending money frivolously. Chris Roberts has come on record to say in this article that he had money before the thing started, which we all knew. I mean, Arena Commander, he sold stuff to Microsoft and EA and everything. The guy was loaded. We knew that already. So the fact that he's driving nice cars now doesn't surprise me, at least. But really, this is kind of a weak accusation from my perspective because I don't really see anything convincing here. What I do see is what we talked about earlier. And there's some other stuff that's saying this is a very long article. We were making commercials, we weren't making a game. That's what the former employees said. They're like, where's the game? This is a bunch of commercials. All the little videos they made and stuff. He wants the game to be everything to everybody and now is nothing to nobody. That's probably the best quote in this article. Even if it's not true. Even if it's not true, that is probably probably the best quote because it sums up why there's controversy. Because there's such a wide scope and there's such a small delivery. In, 3 years? Going on 3 years now. Or 2 years. I don't know how long it's been. I think, November 2014 was the 2-year mark. So, again, to summarize, it's a lot of stuff in there. A lot of stuff. A lot of she said stuff. And I got the full. There's a chairman's response to the escapists. This giant letter from Chris Roberts, which is, I think some of this stuff is put into the article that they posted. And this is a long article from Chris Roberts. So this is that response is kind of sprinkled throughout this entire article. Again, the biggest takeaway, all the other stuff is drama to me. The biggest takeaway from me is what Chris Roberts said about the funding. How many people in chat knew that? I'm curious. Just say I knew that, or I knew. Did you know that Star Citizen's funding wasn't finished? Did you know that? I can't be the only one who thought that. I feel so dumb because I didn't know that. That the game is not funded yet. Squadron 42 is funded, and all the little community things they did are funded. But the persistent universe, the FPS module, those are stretch goals that haven't been funded yet. I mean, I had to read that a couple times. I'm like, wait. I'm like, I got to reread this. There's something, I'm missing something with this. Maybe I'm misunderstanding this. I'm gonna go back and read it again because this is a direct quote from him. Okay, so it's not like, this is not accusations. This is not a third party. This is not Derek Smart. This is not any of those guys. This is Chris Roberts saying this. That's why it's so shocking to me, and that's why I'm taking it as quote unquote factual evidence against all this stuff. Oh man. But anyway, guys, check this story out. I'm not going to spend too much more time on this. I knew it would take a long time to talk about, but I did not want to spend too much time because it's a 3-page giant, like, expose. It is nuts. Yeah, I have that up here, Plutonium. It's right here. That's what I was talking about. The full response here. I haven't read all that either. It's a lot of text. Okay. So let's go into our final story today. We're going to move on to a little bit of tech news. And this is juicy. All right. This is where you rub your hands. You go, oh, my goodness, how is this going to pan out? Amazon has put the foot down. They have dropped the proverbial Amazon dot gauntlet. Let me tell you, boy, howdy, don't you know, they got a droid. They got one of those droids to fly in and drop the gauntlet on Apple's front step. They took that stupid, they took that drone, and I said droid. They took that drone and they flew it over to Google and they dropped another gauntlet. Amazon, they are not going to sell Apple TV and Google Chromecast anymore. And I am shocked. Somebody put a great comment in here. They were like, begun the TV wars have. Apparently they're not going to sell them because of Prime Video incompatibility. Here's what I think happened. All right, let me tell you what the face value is. This is what they said. Over the last 3 years, Prime Video has become an important part of Prime. Amazon said in an email. It's important that the streaming media players we sell interact with Prime Video in order to avoid customer confusion. Okay, that's the official response. Here's what I think happened. All right. I think Amazon wanted to do a deal because, in order to get your stuff pre-installed on devices, on these TV devices, you got to do a deal, And I think Google and Apple have considered Amazon to be not only a threat, but a direct competitor. Think about it. Amazon releases a phone. Amazon releases a tablet. Amazon releases a TV device. Amazon releases all these different hardware devices and software programs and their own little app store and their own everything to compete with Apple and Google. So I really think a deal couldn't be struck. I really think that Google and Amazon couldn't make a deal on getting the Prime Video app pre-installed on the Chromecast or featured or prominent in the Chrome app that's coming out. I really think that Amazon and Apple could not reach a deal to get Prime Video installed by default or have an install prominent location like it does on the consoles. Look at your consoles. Okay, you'll see these little Prime Amazon things like there. You know, most times you don't even have to hunt for them. They're like right in your face, and they have to make deals through different channels, partnership channels, to make that happen. Really, I really think that all fell through, and deals could not be struck. Therefore, Amazon had to make a decision and say, we're not going to sell them, because if we can't make a deal, you are a competitor. I mean, this is some hardcore business tactics being done here. And like I said, the gauntlet has been dropped. Begun, the TV wars have. Check this story out, guys. Mac Rumors has an article, but it is all over the web, man. All over the web. Amazon has basically said to Google, and here's the thing, though. I bought both of these on Amazon. The Chromecast that I have, I bought on Amazon. This is an important point. I bought that on Amazon, and I bought my last Apple TV on Amazon. I am just saying I bought both of those on Amazon. So Apple and Google, if you're listening, I bought those on Amazon. So you might want to extend an olive branch in somebody's direction. Somebody needs to come halfway. We need to negotiate. Somebody needs to compromise. We need to have half a olive branch on each side. You know, we need to wave a white flag somewhere. Yeah. So check it out, guys, over on MacRumors.com. That's all the stories I got for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to move on to our next segment.